Hello, welcome to our last lesson of this unit. We're talking about 8.7, which is tax and percents. But before we get started, we need to review a little bit from 8.6, which we skipped, but we did through our CMP packets. So let's make sure we know how to do this before we get going. When we need to change a decimal to a percent, what we want to do is move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. So for example, if I had 0.12, I'm going to go 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. So 0.12 is equal to 12%. Changing a fraction to a decimal, it's top divided by bottom. And then if we need to make it a percent, we move the decimal 2 places to the right and add a percent. So all we're doing is taking it from a fraction to a decimal, and then we do this. So top divided by bottom. Or you can always, if you don't want to do it that way, make a proportion by setting your fraction equal to 1 over 100. So if you had, let's say, 4/5, you could do 4 divided by 5, and when you do that, and now you're able to use calculators as long as you show me what you're doing. 4 divided by 5 equals 0.8. Then from here, we move it 2 places. So we got to add a 0 and add a percent sign. Otherwise, we could have always said 4/5 is equal to x over 100. And in that case, then we would take 4 times 100 to get 400, and then we would divide it by 5, which when we do that, we get 80, and that's our percent. Okay, so changing a percent to a decimal, we need to remember to drop the percent sign and just move your decimal 2 places to the left. This is the one I talked about Beyonce helping out on. And the key here is it's always 2 and exactly 2. So if we have 37.5%, we need to go ahead and drop that percent sign. So we get rid of this, and then we take this and move it 2 places to the left. So 37.5% is equal to 0.375. Remember, it's okay to have part of a percent, that you don't always need to round it unless it tells you to. And it's always 2 places. When you're going from a percent to a decimal, it's 2 places to the left. When you go from a decimal to a percent, then you go 2 places to the right. So percent of a number, that's what our lesson is actually about today. And of, if you remember when we talked about word problems, of means multiply. So we're talking about percent times a number that we're going to be using. So for example, if you went somewhere, percents are something that we see an awful lot in everyday life, whether it's sales tax on something, the tip that you need to add to your bill, a sale price, things like that. We see percents an awful lot. So if I want to know what is 15% of $27.84, that means I'm taking the percent times a number. So the first thing I need to do is change your percent to a decimal. This is our Beyonce one. So we drop the percent, and this is a whole number, so that means my decimal is at the end of it. I need to move it 2 places to the left to get it to equal 0.15. And now I'm going to multiply it. This is why we started with multiplying decimals earlier this year. Remember, when we multiply decimals, we multiply them like they are normal numbers. I'm going to move this over. Oh, I guess the whole thing moves. And so I multiply them like there are no decimals here. 4 times 5 is 20. Add a 2 up here. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 60. Then I'm going to move in 1. And so that's why I add my 0 here. 8 times 5 is 40. I'd have a 4 up here. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 4 gives me 12. 7 times 5, I've moved in twice. That equals 35. So I'd have a 3 up here now. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10. And last but not least, I'm on to the 2. So I've got 1, 2, 3 zeros that I add. And 2 times 5 is 10. Put a 0 down and a 1 up. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So now I add them all up, and when I do that, I get 41760. And don't forget that when we multiply decimals, we have to go back to our original problem and see how many places after the decimal did we have. Well, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the right of the total decimals. That means I need to have 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the right of my decimal here. So since we're talking dollars and cents, we want to round it to here, cut it off there. So I would say that 15% of $27.84 would be $4.18. All right, let's keep going. Let's try another one. What if I want 50% of 48? Well, we know 50% is a half, so you could just cut it in half. But for the sake of showing how to do it, let's do it with multiplication. So the first thing I want to do is to drop my percent sign and move my decimal 2 places to the left. So now I'm going to take 48, which is a whole number, times 0.5 or 0.50. And so I'm going to multiply it like there's no decimal point to begin with. 5 times 8 is 40. Put my 0 down and my 4 up. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 gives me 24. Now I'm done. I need to go back and find my decimal point, and what do I have to the right of it? I only have one place. So 24.0 is going to be my answer here. Over here, same thing. Let's drop this decimal point, drop the percent sign, move our decimal to the right, and now I'm going to take 36 times 0.1. 0.10 and 0.1 are the same. So 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3. I have one number to the right of my decimal. That means I need to have one number to the right of my decimal down here. 10% of 36 would equal 3.6. Good job. Now we talked about tax, and that's a big thing as you grow older. Every time you buy something, chances are there's probably some kind of a sales tax on it. And so a lot of places, depending on where you're at, different states and different cities have different sales taxes, but they're usually somewhere less than 10%. It might be 7.5%, might be 5.5%, might be 6%. But for this purpose here, we're going to say that we have a 6% sales tax, and we're buying a hot dog that's $8.50 to begin with. So again, we're taking 6% of $8.50, so I'm going to be multiplying them. I'm going to take this 6% and change it to 0.06 by the time I move my decimal twice. So 0.06 times $8.50 gives me a total of 0.51, which is 51 cents. There's 51 cents in tax that I'm going to have to pay in addition to this $8.50 for the hot dog. So I have my original price of the hot dog plus the tax for a grand total of $9.01 for that hot dog. So sales tax is the exact same thing as finding percent of a number. There's no difference. It's just a little bit different terminology. So last but not least, I've got a couple that I want you to go ahead and try out in your notes, and we'll talk about them in class tomorrow. You're finding 25% of 80, 10% of 100, and 60% of 60. So remember your steps. I hope you have those written down, how you find the percent of a number, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.